I want my number ones back, all of them.
That's crazy. Why would I give them back? Give you number 2 picks.
No. No, I want my picks back, all of them.
Right, you have a deal. Give me your picks. We have a deal.
I'm sorry, that deal's now off the table.
What?
We live in a different world than we did just 30 seconds ago. It doesn't matter. I want all my picks back, and I want David goddamn Putney just because I feel like it.
You're out of your mind.
Yeah, I am. Haven't I proved that already?
Okay, so the rumor's true. Okay, we just traded you. Okay, we traded you to the Indianapolis Colts. All right, so you okay?
Nah, I want to call my grandmother.
You can call your grandmother? Okay, this hasn't hit the papers or anything like that. Okay, well, why don't we do a little business first, okay? Before you call grandma, okay?
Welcome back in, everybody, to another edition of the Dynasty Trade Show. Thank you so much for clicking that play button and rocking with us. Man, Adam, still another busy week of Dynasty trades, man. It's almost like people have nothing to do but sit around and try to make their Dynasty teams better. You love to see it. You love to see it.
I love activity at this time of year, Mike. Football just ended. So much will change. But you know what? So's our Dynasty teams right now, Mike. Let's make trades today. Stop being scared. Let's make some deals, So, Mike, as always, we start off with one of our own. So let me kick it to you because, Mike, you made a pretty big deal in the Royal Rumble. So talk to the people, man. What are we looking at here?
Oh, man. So I got a Tua and Jahan Dotson for CeeDee Lamb. So this is a 28-team 2 copy. So just think of it like a 14-team Superflex. Best ball league. I'm not going to dive into all the scoring, but they're, pretty standard stuff across the board. There's a tight end premium, that kind of thing. But being 14 teams in Superflex, as you can imagine, quarterbacks are hard to find, Adam. And last year I built a QB monster team. I had like 8 of the crustiest, grossest fucking quarterbacks imaginable.
That was the true shitlord of quarterbacks, right? Just all of the shitlords.
On my side of the bracket, right, made it to the finals on the old Heisman side, the 14 teams that we played against, and couldn't quite pull it off. So didn't get a chance to go play for the big money, but it is what it is. And what I do in the offseason, threw my team back in the dispersal. All of them.
I love it.
All of them.
I absolutely love it.
Just like our intro. All of them.
All of them.
And I went with a heavy approach to drafting wide receivers, just where I was picking in the dispersal. There were some quarterbacks in there like Justin Herbert, obviously very hot commodity in a 14 team. Wasn't able to get him. So with my first pick, I decided just to lean in and go wide receivers, man. Everybody seems to love wide receivers. I love wide receivers. So let me get some young wide receivers and build my team around. So I took like CeeDee Lamb and DK Metcalf and T. Higgins, right? This is kind of just how I started the dispersal draft. And quarterback situation was god-awful. Davis Mills, Malik Willis, Marcus Mariota, Matt Corral. Woof. Nobody that's probably going to play football for my team next year. But, hey, you got to take some quarterbacks and roll the dice. So this offer came through. It was straight up to start with. It was CeeDee Lamb for Tua. Me getting Tua, him getting CeeDee Lamb, and I conversed with you, and I'm like, what else should I add to this, right? Like, I don't want to do this straight up. It just kind of feels a little crusty. I feel like I could get one. So I threw in my boy Jahan Dotson, just thinking, what the hell? Why not? If he declines, he declines. But if I could get Tua and Dotson, I'll walk away pretty happy. And as you can see, that trade went through. I did get Tua and Dotson. So a little bit about my perspective about it. I still value Tua as a top 12 quarterback. I know it's scary with the concussions, right? Him not being out of concussion protocol, but it's so hard to find top 12 quarterbacks, Adam. I mean, they're such a rare commodity, and even more in a 14-team Superflex league. Like, they are a finite asset. So as much as I love CeeDee Lamb, I don't think there's any question for me that if I was in a startup today, in this kind of startup, an auction, which we did this, traditional snake draft, I'm taking Tua over CeeDee Lamb, straight up.
Yeah,
I needed for me. So to get anything extra on it, especially a guy I love, I was over the moon with this deal, buddy. Not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, Mike, because I think the reality is if we did a startup, right, with all the scoring settings and it was 12 teams, like I think CD goes ahead of Tua pretty easily because
that's fair.
Right now when you think about what's going on with Tua, he still hasn't cleared the protocol today. As of us recording this, probably as of us dropping this, he hasn't cleared the protocol. He's not going to be in the Pro Bowl. So I think, given the fact that he had 3 concussions this year and that, 2 of them were back-to-back, I think people are really scared about Tua, Mike, because I think there was already preconceived notions. Now, this is not the issue of the concussion, but I think sometimes they play hand in hand where there was preconceived notions of people not really being in on Tua. So then you have this doubt of his play, and then you have it compounded by the fact that he has these concussions. So I think, Mike, the reality is this. I'm in this league, and I can tell you from dynamics that my Giftworks Peter was shopping this. He hit me up about Tua. Part of that is he wants to move off of Tua because there's uncertainty. But, Mike, this is not a 12-team league. This is a 14-team league. But it's not just 14 teams. It's 14-team to copy, which, Mike, and everyone listening, I want you to think 14-team league is quarterback scarcity, but it's really even a little step further because of the two-copy aspect, and you can trade across leagues, right? This is a trade across leagues. You just sent across leagues no quarterback and got Tua back, right? That can play the scarcity up even higher. So, Mike, when I think about this, if it's a 14-team league, I think Tua and CD are going to be going pretty close, and I think Tua probably might go ahead. I think if we're doing 28-team startup draft, Mike, I think Tua's definitely going ahead of CD, even with the uncertainty. Mike, I think what's interesting was we talked, and I'm like, you got to get a plus. Like, just get a light, dart throw receiver, something back just to make you not feel like you're just getting abused by losing a top 3 dynasty receiver. Mike, I didn't think you were going to shoot for Jahan Dotson, one of our loves. I mean, Mike, I think that's the thing for me with this trade is when I look at it, Jahan Dotson is not the sexiest of receivers for a lot of people. He missed some time. But the thing is in best ball, Mike, what do we talk about? Consistency weeks and spike weeks. Right? Jahan Dotson, man, he had a few spikes, and that was with Curtis Samuel playing there. That's with bad quarterback play. So even if you project the same situation, this is the guy that has some spike weeks. Like I think when I think about it, right, what's the risk? The risk for people is like Tua's not going to play football ever again. Well, I personally don't think that's going to happen. But if we just use the extreme, like that would suck going from CeeDee Lamb to Jahan Dotson, right? I don't think that's going to absolutely kill your dynasty team to where you're never going to be able to recover. Like, I really don't, even if that was the scenario. Mike, probably the most likely scenario is Tua plays. Maybe he's always going to be considered more in the back half of the 12 because there's, injury risk with him. But the question you have to ask yourself is, what if it hits? What if Tua is a top 10 quarterback for years to come and the concussions aren't an issue? This is an absolute slam dunk if that's the case. So when I think about, the scenarios, worst case, more likely, and best case, I think it's totally worth the risk given the quarterback scarcity.
I mean, Tua was a top 10 quarterback on our best ball sheet with missing 5 games, right? Just being gone and not playing. So you do hit it. Like, what's the upside? Well, the upside is if he plays a full season, doesn't have concussions, and keeps up the same pace that he was on last year, but a fully healthy season. I mean, in reality, Adam, you're looking at a guy who could potentially be a top 5 quarterback option. Like, and that's pretty legit to say. When he spikes hard. That whole offense, like when Tyreek goes off, when Jalen Waddle goes off and Tua's cooking, puts up some amazing numbers. I mean, you touched on it a few episodes ago that we were talking about. Not many quarterbacks out there got a 400-yard passing game and 6-touchdown game on their resume, right? Not many guys have that ability.
Right.
I can think of a handful, all right? Like you think Patrick Mahomes can do it. You think Josh Allen can do it. You think Joe Burrow can do it. Outside of that, man, as much as we love like Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson, like I don't know if that's really in the realm of possibility right now, just through the air, right? Just through throwing the football. So this was I would say a calculated risk. I'm sure some people are going to be on the CeeDee Lamb side, but again, the best ball thing I want to stress, the 14-team thing I want to stress, quarterbacks become more scarce. They're harder to get. And especially in best ball, man, anytime you can really do one, like if you construct the deal around 2 similar assets and you think it's going to be a 1-for-1, if you can get anything else that has the potential of making your lineup on a consistent basis, like Jahan Dotson in his rookie year, entering your lineup 5 times throughout the season in a best ball, that's something I'm interested in, man. I'm always looking to do that 1-for-2 And as long as I'm on the other side of I'm getting the 2.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is, if you're looking at this and saying lineup league and you want to take CeeDee Lamb, I'm not going to really fight you. If you're saying it's a 12 team or a 10 team, you want to take CeeDee Lamb all day. I think, Mike, in 14 team lineup, I might even have a problem taking CeeDee Lamb there if it was 1-for-1. But with the package, Mike, in 14 team, whether it's lineup or best ball, I think I'm willing to take the risk here. I mean, it doesn't come without its risk. Tua is an asset that you're going to have to sit on. I think the reality is Tua's not going to be able to show anybody for a while that he's worth the risk of investment. So I think he's going to have a bear market for the majority of the offseason. But it's one I'm willing to wait on. And given the quarterback scarcity thing, I want your side. I think the thing is for the other side, for it to work out, Mike, Tua has to have a shortened career or a career that all of a sudden he's not playing well because of the injury for that side to pan out personally. Because in this format, Mike, the quarterbacks are so hard. Not that CeeDee Lamb isn't a stud, but that's a position that's a lot more replaceable in a best ball 14-team format. So it could definitely work out for the other side, but I'm willing to take the risk of your side.
Oh, bad luck to you, Peter. Hope it works out horribly for you.
Yeah, Mike's not gonna ever root for you, but Peter, that's the reality. I think it could work out, but I'd take the risk of Mike's side there. I know that's not the case for everyone listening, probably, but we have another trade, Mike. Here we're looking at Gabe is receiving. This is a Devy league, okay? So he is getting, as you can see, what everyone thinks is the 101 in the 24 class, right? Caleb Williams. He's also receiving Brandon Ayuk. Mike, and if you look at the other side of it, kind of a similar deal to last deal on the surface of, like, Malik Willis is technically a second player on that side.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, this is not an asset that a lot of people really want right now.
No.
Scary. It's almost like a Jamar Chase for Ayuk and Caleb Williams. You do have the long shot upside of Malik Willis, but what he showed this year was really bad. So, Mike, given all that, what are your thoughts on this deal initially on the surface?
Man, this one's a tough one to judge. I always struggle with Devy or C2C trades. This is why I rely on our guys, Felix Sharp, Matt Bruning, the Campus to Canton crew, a hell of a lot when it comes to valuing Devys. This one doesn't even have the added bonus of being a C2C league, like where Caleb Williams would be scoring you points on the college side. You have the potential to win money, right?
Yeah,
you don't even have that asset.
Right, and it also I forgot to mention, this is a best ball league 12 team.
Man, Caleb Williams is pretty amazing, right, from everything that we've seen. But it's always going to be in the back of my mind. We've done this a billion times with, it feels like, a billion quarterbacks and a billion draft prospects where it's like, this guy's the 101 next year. And then it's, Spencer Rattler returning for his 17th year. Still not entering the draft.
Right.
Or DJU now transferring to another school and just not ever really being what we thought, right? This one is so tough because Jamar Chase is known. Dynasty wide receiver 2. And probably Dynasty wide receiver 1 in a lot of people's minds. Brandon Ayuk is fantastic, but those two aren't in the same realm. Malik Willis is just kind of whatever. It's a dart throw in this. So if I get it tacked on to Jamar Chase, I'm kind of happy. Let me give a dart throw. I will say this, man. This trade is either going to look phenomenal for Gabe or it's going to look absolutely horrible. Right? I don't think there's a middle ground at all. If Caleb Williams comes out as consensus 101 next year, he's everything we expected him to be. He's the next in line for being one of the great quarterbacks in the NFL. I will take Caleb Williams and Brandon Ayuk over Jamar Chase every day of the week. No question about it. But if he doesn't, Adam, if he's got to go back to school because he struggles next year, maybe he turns the ball over too much, or maybe NFL teams kind of sour on him. He doesn't end up being a first-round pick. He doesn't end up being that lock. And he kind of goes the Malik Willis career arc. It's really bad. Really, really bad. And that's me being a Brandon Ayuk fan. You're trading away an incredible asset in Jamar Chase. So it is a lot like the deal that we just looked at before, except for one of those guys is in the NFL already doing NFL things at quarterback position. The other one's a projection. So
right. Yeah. I mean,
that's what makes it so tough.
Tua's already shown stuff on the NFL field, already has the draft capital. And I'm with you on the surface of this, Mike. So let me break it down a couple different ways when everyone listening to think about it. This is one of the things we talk about that's different when it's Devy and Dynasty, right? Because in Devy, you own the player. Like if this is Dynasty and you're telling me Gabe is getting the 101 in 24 and Brandon Ayuk, I personally like that better because if it all breaks right, you're going to take Caleb Williams, right? But you're not locked into Caleb Williams.
Correct.
If Caleb Williams ends up failing or has a serious injury, I mean, talk about Tua and concussions. God forbid he has a concussion. Whatever could happen. If he gets in trouble off the field, who knows, gets in a car wreck. All these type things, there's no out. You're stuck with the player Caleb Williams. So the 101 in Dynasty for me is more appealing in that regard. Like last year we talked about that with Bijan, but the reality is now Bijan's healthy. He's made it through. It's the 101. They're the same thing now. Okay, fine. But you have the flexibility if something bad happens. Second thing I'll say on this is, like, I'm with you on what we saw, Spencer Rattler, right? Your boy Sam Howell. We saw this with DJU. The difference there for me personally, why here I'm still okay with it, but I would much rather the 101 than Caleb Williams specifically, is when you start diving into the player, like the difference when I think about DJU and Caleb Williams is DJU is all projection, right? He's coming into his freshman year. We're kind of putting this talent that's going to guarantee to hit. Caleb Williams had a phenomenal season this year. He's shown well in 2 years, right? He got hurt. This guy was, in line to get the Heisman Trophy. I mean, Mike, this guy is great. So I do think I'm willing to bet on the player going through college one more season, making it through, and if he is the 101 and he's, the first quarterback off the board, which is what we think about today, if that comes to fruition, I'll take that side. I'll take that side in 12-team best ball. The one thing about doing it now is, one, you don't get any points for Caleb Williams all year. You're locked into the player that could go up or down. And like you said, if it all hits right, I want Gabe's side. But the difference today in points and in what is valued in Dynasty from Brandon Ayuk to Jamar Chase is significant. So, and you could push back and say, well, Adam, if I wait a year, like this trade's not there. And that's very possible. But this would be one I maybe wanted to hold out on a little more. Given all the risk and upside, I want Gabe's side. But if you're Jay Peters, man, and you're able to throw away a quarterback you don't need on your team scoring points today, and you get Jamar Chase, feels pretty good on that side too. Like, I think it's a good trade today, but I think if it all breaks right, Gabe has the chance to win this trade.
Gabe does. I think it's kind of an all-in or all-out. And maybe it's me just being so burned of quarterbacks over the years. I think back to where Teddy Bridgewater was locked in 101, and then even then he had a good season. But then all the questions kind of came out about, what's his hand size? Why does he need to wear gloves? And we picked these guys apart. We mentioned Tua, man, when we started the show. You remember Tua was by far and away the tank for Tua, right?
The hip injury, right?
Tua, right? Sure. He has that hip injury, comes in the league, slips in the draft a little bit. It's not the consensus 101. Even in your dynasty rookie drafts, he's fallen to the mid part of the first round. And then for the last couple years, right, we're picking Tua apart. Tua can't play. Tua can't throw. Tua can't do that. And it was up until this year where the people who defended Tua finally were right. So when I look at Caleb Williams, as great as he was, right, I still think you just have all this time for people, the NFL, et cetera, to pick the kid apart. And unless he's coming into the league right now, that's a lot of time for people to be assholes and his stock to go every which way. But there is a scenario, right? You talked about Bijan. This time last year, Bijan's probably going to be the 101, and it's kind of looking like that's going to make fruition. It's going to come true.
Yep.
So you can get through. And I think if that's the scenario for Gabe, congratulations, you win this trade. But up until then, I'm going to take the Jay Peters side because he has the known asset. He has the coveted one, the one that everybody wants right now that's actually going to score points for him. It
makes sense. I mean, and if you took Jamar Chase here, said you're willing to take on the risk of losing Caleb Williams in Devy, I'm not going to fight you. I probably am willing to take the risk on this because I believe in Caleb Williams. But in a process move, this could backfire. All right, Mike, so we got another one here. We got Certified Ass Man getting Joe Burrow.
What a name.
And we got our boy Cody getting Lamar, the 202, and a 2024 fourth-round pick, Mike. Let me ask you this. What's the difference in Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, and is the 202 and a fourth enough?
I love what Cody did here, man. I love what he did.
So do I.
I'm not as panicked as a lot of people seem to be on Lamar. But like they think this guy's not going to play football next year. He might hold out. He might do this. Blah blah blah. Guy's playing football and he's phenomenal when he plays football. Joe Burrow is very good, no question about it. Adam, when I got to rank him, I rank Joe Burrow ahead of Lamar Jackson, but
Sure.
it ain't by a lot, man. I mean, these guys are kind of in the same tier for me. So, you know how I am. Same tier moves. Anytime I can get something of value. And for me, sometimes that's as little as a 3rd round pick, man. Just toss me something so I feel good. It ain't like Cody got that, though. He got the 202, which is going to be a pretty good player in this class if he makes the pick. If he doesn't make the pick, that's a pretty good asset to hold to try to trade to somebody else who may really want or covet that 202. So if I'm going to stay within the same tiers, I love what Cody did, man. I love the name of certified ass man, but Cody Smith got in that ass, if you know what I mean.
I'm all about it, man. Personally, like I think Joe Burrow is better than Lamar Jackson in dynasty value. I'd rather have him. If you told me I'm gonna be in a startup, I'm gonna take Burrow over Lamar every time this offseason. That being said, like I think Lamar is clearly, for me anyway, a top 7 quarterback, top 8 quarterback, whatever you want to consider it. For me, Mike, the difference, as long as I'm able to stay in that top 8. You know, if we're talking Allen or Mahomes, maybe I don't want to do this for just the 202. But when it gets to this range, Burrow, I'll go down to Lamar and you add me damn near a 1st round pick this year. I'm willing to do that, and I think these are the type of moves that you can do that give you edges and extra shots, basically regardless of format. So I really like what Cody did here. I don't know, Mike. I'm thinking about the other side, and like I'm just thinking, is there? I'd have to be so convicted in Joe Burrow and for me to pay this personally. And I think there's a scenario where if you hold the 202 and you take that player and it doesn't pan out, and you hold that player for a year or two, maybe the Burrow side wins. But I don't view things that way. I don't view that asset as a player that's I have to hold for 2 years and miss on. I can trade this pick tomorrow. I can trade this pick during the draft. I can trade the player after the draft. So I want the 2 assets, and then you give me the 4th as a throw-in.
I will say this. There's one scenario that I can envision where the Joe Burrow side makes sense for me, and that would be one, if I'm flush with draft capital, Adam, and you kind of have that arrogance that, I can throw some of it away or use it. But if I'm doing this for Joe Burrow, the only way it makes sense to me personally, and I could see or envision myself maybe making a move like this, is if I had like Jamar Chase or T. Higgins and I wanted to get the stack because I'm competing this year. And sometimes getting that stack can just be so deadly. And especially a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack, like that'll flat out win you weeks, right? That's
fair.
If we look at warp versus, like stacks, to get something like that, if the cost is the 202 and the 4th and a similar tier quarterback, I think there's going to be a realistic scenario in some of my leagues I would look at it and I'd go, it's almost worth it here just to stack these guys together.
Yeah, that's true. If I had Chase, I would probably also consider that. So that's a good point, Mike. Good point.
All right, man, that was a hell of a deal. What do we got next, Adam?
So
Hopefully we can top that one.
Yeah, we got Jalen Hurts in the 309 being acquired for the 101 and Chris Olave. Mike, I mean,
holy shit.
Let me just say this. Anytime I can get a top 5, top 8, let's even just say it's top 8 quarterback, and I'm not sending one back, even if you use 101 as the placeholder for a 23 quarterback, I'm probably going to be in a deal of this magnitude.
Oh, man. I think about it when I look. I mean, some people are going to be like, Bijan's so good, blah, 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 and he's fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic. This doesn't take anything away from Bijan. I think there's a pretty wide gap between where Bijan's going to ultimately end up and his value in Dynasty as a running back compared to a guy that we know is an elite top 3 option at quarterback. So for me, Hurts or the 101 easily Hurts. No question.
No question.
No question about it for me. I think the conversation then comes into the difference between Hurts and the 101. Is that enough to justify Olave for the 309? And in my opinion, in Superflex leagues, yes, because quarterback is such a scarce asset. As much as it hurts me, man, you know how big of an Olave fan I am. I think he's fantastic. So if I had to like put a pick number on Olave, for me, it's like around the 104, Adam. I think at the 104, I'm having a real conversation about, do I want Olave or do I want the 104? And even that's me thinking about quarterbacks in this class, right? Do I want the 14th, 15th, 16th rated overall quarterback in Superflex at the 104 and Bijan at the 101? Or do I want Jalen Hurts? And I think even that's a fair enough price for me to go. Jalen Hurts is so damn good. He gives you the advantage in warp. As far as best ball is concerned with us, spike weeks and consistency weeks, I know not everything's best ball, but I can make a lot of correlations between lineup and best ball because you got to push the button on this guy every single week. So how often is he paying off when you push the button on him every single week? A guy like Jalen Hurts is paying off big time for you every single week when you push the button, and that's a huge advantage. So I'm with King Koopa on this one, man. I'll take Hurts, and I can't believe he got a third back. And this is a move we talked about with Felix on the AMA about getting thirds back in this class. They're not the sexiest thing, Adam, but there's realistic scenarios where we're in mock drafts right now doing it in the middle to late part of the third round going like, damn, this dude's available? Yeah, I'll take a shot on him. Like, we don't know for sure how it's going to shake out with NFL draft capital, but there's a realistic scenario with this class being this deep, especially at the running back position. You could get a guy that we look back at next year and go like, man, do you believe that guy went at the 309? He started for his team all year, put up 1,000 yards on the ground, another 200 through the air, and a handful of touchdowns. He was the RB 17.
Right.
And you got this dude at the 309. And Koopa's getting it here as a throw-in. Like,
right.
Here's a toss-in.
Like, you think about guys that were going, pretty standardly in the second round of last year's class, which had one quarterback that nobody wanted in Kenny Pickett, right?
Yes.
And you think about, Dameon Pierce a lot of times was making the second round. Tyler Algier was making the second round. That's in a shallow, bad class, Mike. This is a deep class that's very full of running backs that matter. So that 309, okay, it's a throw-in, right? But you could package up if you got a guy you really want in the early third into the late second. It's another piece, and then, who knows? In this class, it's so deep at running back. There's quarterbacks, there's receivers, some tight ends even in the third round. Like, you could end up landing somebody there that matters. The other point that I will say on this, Mike, which makes it, I should have said beginning, which makes this easy, King Koopa for me, is this is lineup start 9. Lineup start 9, we know, Mike, is what? All about the quarterbacks and the elite quarterbacks. I love Bijan. But let me say this. This is another trade that should show you in January. Now, this is going to come out to you in February, but we did this review of this trade the last day of January. This trade was made, a few days prior. This is a trade in January of what Bijan can net you. Bijan is going to continue to build hype, and by the time that draft season rolls around, there's a chance Bijan by himself in a plus-it receiver, Mike's wide receiver 1, but not really the wide receiver 1 in the 22 class, is going to get you all of a sudden into quarterback range. Like, I don't even care how high you value Chris Olave. It's irrelevant. The fact that gets you into elite quarterback range, stupid, man. King Koopa, way to flex on everybody here on the trade show. Great deal. I love every piece of it. So, Mike, we got a 7 GOAT rings deal, but this is not your traditional 7 GOAT rings deal, right? This is – and 7 GOAT rings wanted to say, listen, I do small deals too. It's not just always flexing. So 7 GOAT rings acquires Wan'Dale Robinson and John Mechie, Mike, Big Black Scooby, who's not a Patreon member, but has been featured on the show almost as much as anyone else in the Patreon has been, is getting the 303 and the 311 in 23, Mike. We just talked last deal, all of a sudden about 309. So where are you, Mike? Wan'Dale Robinson versus 303 and John Mechie versus 311 in this deal here. Let me say this. It is a 12-team, full PPR, 2-quarterback league, and it's lineup. I
will say this. This is a monumental moment for us. This is like when the Washington Generals finally beat the Harlem Globetrotters. Bravo, Big Black Scooby. You won one, buddy. You did it. You got the GOAT rings one time. Congratulations. He probably owed you one.
Like, I was is this a small time like give back just so that Big Black Scooby's like, yeah, I got one. See, I can do this too. But then it's like the big magnitude deals. He nets over on him again. I like
that's that. That's why Goat Rings posted this one, right? He wants.
That's a 4D chess move, honestly.
I love it. Oh, he's thinking way down the road. Wandale or the 303. Easily right now in this class this year, I'll take the 303 over Wandale.
Okay.
I don't care. I'll probably get pushback from it. Wandale was fine, but what happened? I mean, he tore his ACL. Do we think the Giants are doing something with their wide receiver room? God, I hope so for Daniel Jones' sake. I absolutely hope so. And I definitely think they'll do something in the draft, whether they even bring in some of these mid-level free agents. Like, I mean, the free agent class for the wide receivers is not great. But
so
even bring
in somebody like Kenny Galladay again?
Please don't overpay him. But, you know, if they bring in Alan Lazard on a decent enough deal.
Oof. They might.
There's gonna be competition added to this. You got a guy coming off an ACL. Yes, he performed well, but I mean, he performed well with nobody else there. Nobody else there. Mechie, great story, man, and I think everybody's pulling for him. He was one of my favorites before the whole cancer diagnosis. Right, he was one of my guys that I wanted to stack everywhere. He got the draft capital. The situation in Houston was good for him as far as competition went because it was like Brandon Cooks and, you know, we kind of hoped for Nico Collins and then it was John Mechie. But, I mean, this is a serious diagnosis that he got. So we want to see how he comes back, how it affects him. Is he even going to play this year? Is it going to take another year off? And, I mean, you're talking about a liquid pick in the 311. Like John Mechie or the 311. Sorry to say, man, I'm going to take the 311 100 times out of 100 on this. So I love this deal for Big Black Scooby, and I really do think if Goat Rings is being honest, man, this is a layup. Like, hey, I don't always bend you over on the trade show. Mike and Adam aren't always going to talk bad about you. Look, we're going to point to this
Keep
episode.
making deals with me. You just crushed me. Well, we just ruined all that for him because we're out here exposing.
Sorry.
Let me say this. Wan'Dale Robinson has, early day 2 capital. I mean, the ACL is very concerning. I would say this. I think the 303 in Wan'Dale value-wise is appropriate. The way I dynasty, though, I'd lean the 303. All that being said, though, Mike, the thing that as I'm listening to you talk about it, like, even if they address the wide receiver position, like, that needs to happen regardless, right? And let's say they get a legitimate X, like Wan'Dale could still thrive. I think I lean 303, but I think that's pretty damn fair, honestly. Okay. I'd prefer the liquidity, though, right? But I think, like, on a value aspect, fair. I think the 311 versus Mechie, like, I'm kind of curious. Everyone watching, let me know what you think in the comments. For me, Mechie's somebody that I'm not really all that interested in betting on. Not that I don't like the kid. I like the talent. Wanted a lot of him, but, he's coming off of having cancer. I think he's, could still recover. But when I think about everything we just talked about in the third range, I'm comfortable cashing out on something that has given me no value. He's not a rookie anymore. I'd rather make the 311 bet. I think the 311 over Mechie for me is bigger of a gap than the 303 over Wan'Dale Robinson. And maybe I'm going to end up wrong on this, but I also think we have to remember creating a trade like this is January. This is February when you're watching it. He may not love 303 or 311, but understand when May comes around and draft capital has happened and landing spots are declared, 303 is going to look a lot different than it does today. 311 is going to look a lot different than it does today. That's just a number for you right now. When we're talking about, Tajay Spears or some of these running backs that are very enticing prospects that end up getting decent capital in the third round, you're going to be like, holy shit, why did I trade that pick for Wan'Dale Robinson? That's the way I'm kind of viewing it. And I also think that the 303 and the 311 are far more flippable as the final tiebreaker, even if you thought this was close. 303 and 311 have no preconceived notions. John Mechie has, had cancer, unfortunately, hasn't done anything in the league. Wan'Dale Robinson had a few good games, but is coming off an injury. There was a lot of naysayers on his prospect profile before, he even started playing in the NFL. I think there's far more flippability on the third side than there is Wan'Dale and Mechie. So sorry, 7 Goat Rings. Even though you probably wanted this deal to be graded as a loss for you, we're going to give it to Big Black Scooby. So There you go, man. Long-winded 7 goat ring small trade. Mike, a huge trade here. Okay, so we got all picks too, which is really fun for us when we start to get into this time of year, Mike, because we have a lot of value, and we talk all the time about startup value, rookie pick value, and there's no names here. So I think this is a great one to go on. So Warren G 2020 is getting a 25 fourth, a 23 211, a 23 104, a 25 third, a 23 202, a 25 third, and a 25 fourth. Mr. Wonderful Mike is netting 3 first in the 2024 class. Before I even get into settings and all that, and before I talk about the other picks, I kind of want to hear your thoughts on this before I really lean into it.
So without knowing any of the dynamics of the league, like best ball lineup,
I mean, if you want it,
like
it's 12 team Superflex, tight end premium, start 10.
To net 2 future 24 first for the 104 is probably like it. Let's be honest, man. Come draft time, that's going to be the price for a lot of people on some of these top picks. Okay.
202 might require in the neighborhood of a future first too.
Yes, 100% right. So if you just look at it on the surface here, the way it sits right now, without me knowing anything about where these picks are going to land or what their teams holding them look like, I would say it's a fair deal on the surface, Adam. But I imagine, though, this is also the kind of deal that I could see myself making, and it's because I want to bet against certain people, right? So if I look at Mr. Wonderful, he's getting 3 different 24 firsts from 3 different people. And one of these isn't Waring, right? Not a single one coming back is from Waring. So he's betting on other people in his league. If this was during a startup, you can also see teams that may struggle and aren't building good teams. If this is in an existing league, Adam, you got all that information, right? Who knows? I mean, maybe Velasco, this isn't anything against him, but we all know those kind of people in the league who are habitually bad at Dynasty. And if Mr. Wonderful sitting here is like, yeah, there's no way this is worse than the 103 next year, even if everything went right for this guy, everything imaginable, his team is still god awful. I could be looking at possibly a Caleb Williams or Drake May. Would I rather have them or that pick, I would say, than the 104 in this class? Very likely. I mean, you have the whole time aspect. I do think the star power in 2024 is a little bit greater, especially at the top end versus 2023. 2023 has a lot of depth. You do get the benefit of time, which we've talked about before in multiple podcasts. But Adam, that's just assuming one of these is in the top half. He may look and have found 2 guys. He may found 2 guys like Shipdat may have a horrible team and he's going, I legit could end up with the 101 and the 102 next year in 2024 in a class that we think has elite star power. And I got to give up the 104, the 202, and then just a bunch of fluff, like a bunch of junk that I'm just kind of tossing in to kind of make him feel good.
So a lot of things on this, and Mike, I like the way you broke that down because a lot of truth to it. But here's the thing: when I'm really thinking about kind of the nuances and the angles of this deal. So first and foremost, let's start with this. Somebody had leveraged 3 future firsts in 24 and gave them up for this package. Not many people, Mike, have 3 24 firsts that are not their own and are willing to sell them all in a single trade where they only net 1 first that isn't even the 101 in the 23 class, right? It's okay, so that's interesting. And none of those are your own. Okay, so then I also think about, okay, Mr. Wonderful is not sending away, his pick's not involved here. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, now he's looking at 4 first maybe if he has his own. And I go in the Discord and I look, and now this gives him 5 firsts in the 24 class, Mike. So here's the thing. The leverage piece is not only that, but Mike, everything you just hit on, you have 5 shots at that early pick, those top 6 picks. Mike, what are we talking about here? 12-team Superflex start 10 lineup. You 2 of these picks, you don't even care which ones they are. 2 of these picks, whether it's your own or these ones or one you already had, end up being, in the vicinity of Caleb Williams, Drake May. Completely groundbreaking, right? And
oh yes,
at 104, I think there's a scenario where people have to understand with 104, if everything breaks right in this class and the quarterback thirst in the NFL is real enough, like you could be looking at Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, all being drafted inside the top 15. And if that happens, 104 is going to look really fucking good.
Yes.
Even still, Mike, I'm okay. I'm okay getting all this leverage, holding hostage this 24 class, because I also think there's an added dynamic of if you have all these picks and some of them end up being early, people don't want to see you get youth and quarterbacks and all the sexy players, which give you months of the ability to trade. Mike, I also, when I look at this, the other weird part that's making me think of how ridiculous it is he juiced in 4 25 picks that are not even second round picks. Like, here's a 3rd and 25, 2 of them. Here's a 4th and 25, 2 of them. Right. Swindle. I listen, 104 could end up being the best quarterback in the class. 202 could be a great running back, but when I think of the dynamics and the process play, swindle. Love what Mr. Wonderful did. I'll take that side every day of the week. If you're a contender and you think that these picks are going to help you right now, I understand it. But here's the thing. Even if I wanted to take the other side, why? I'm not taking all these damn fluff picks all the way in 25. Like, you got to make them 23 or something.
Right.
Mike, I'm not kidding you. If those 25 thirds are 23, 303, and 306, I'm having a different conversation about what those picks mean, you know?
Right. So, because of the depth of the class and what is the known commodity, I get it.
I don't have any way to trade or do anything with these fucking picks for years.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot tougher to sell, because if you just look at it, you break it down, it's a first and 2 seconds in this year's class for 3 firsts in next year's class.
And one of which is the 211, Mike.
Right. And I'm okay. I'm okay just accruing the value, man. I'm just okay. Let me get the value.
Mr.
I'll
Wonderful,
trade a couple of these seconds for first. We'll just move on with my life.
Mr. Wonderful must have a very wonderful sales pitch on, here, this 25 class is deep. You're going to want all the thirds and the fourths in that class because here they go. All right, Mike. So Shane Joe is acquiring Justin Jefferson, Mike, for Jalen Waddle, the 105 in this class, and the 2023 403. What say you here, buddy? This is a spicy deal. Justin Jefferson is different. We know that. So what are your thoughts on this deal initially?
This all depends on, for me, it's going to be league type and direction of the team. So, Adam, if you tell me this is a start 14 lineup league, start 13, start 12, start 11, I probably want the Waddle in the 105 side. Not going to lie. In a Superflex league,
so it's Superflex lineup start 11.
Justin Jefferson is different. He is different. I do want to trade away Jalen Waddle. He's kind of an interesting case. I think he's overvalued.
I agree
Justin
with you there.
Jefferson is fantastic, though. He is absolutely fantastic. So to package Jalen Waddle in the 105 to go to Justin Jefferson, if my team's ready for it, ready to go, and I need to just kind of fill out with some studs and really make my push this year, I'm okay with it. This is a best ball league, Adam. No question about it. If this is a best ball league, I will take Waddle in the 105 and the 403 and just move on with my life. And this is me not wanting to hold on to my Jalen Waddle shares, right? This is me trying to actively move off of them. I'll take them. Lineup league, a little bit different. Start 11 puts it in that perfect, man, I could go either way because it's not super shallow, but it's also not super deep. If Shane is ready around him or he had enough draft capital and enough stuff laying around, I'm perfectly fine with the Uptier. And this is kind of antithetical to what we were doing last year, where it was man, you got to tear down all the time. If you can get another elite wide receiver and a future first, and this is a good first to have in this class, you do it every time. But I've also kind of had the
that
shift,
growth,
man. We've had the growth, right? We look at the best ball sheet and we go, man, the difference between these guys is insane. We look at warp data and go, man, the difference weekly between these guys is insane.
Right.
What they provide to you and the advantage they give you. So Justin Jefferson's built different. It's a hefty price to pay for him right now. I think me personally, man, my only critique for it, I'm on board with Shane. There's a lot of outs for it. My only critique for it would be, at this point though, man, that 105 is just it is on this, it's like that damn wheel Price is Right game with the little Irish mountaineer yodeler, whatever the hell it is, Norwegian, just going up, and going up. I would have waited a little bit longer. I think I would have waited a little bit longer, and it might not have cost as much.
I'll personally say this. Best ball, I think I'm having a discussion. Honestly, Mike, if I had, depending on the settings, so like if we're starting 10 in best ball, and let's say it's the Royal Rumble League. Now in the Royal Rumble League, it's be different because it's 14 team 2 copy. You're talking about a quarterback there, but let's say the lineup is that it's a 12 team. We're starting 10 or 11, and it's a shallow roster, 25 spots. I think even there, Mike, I would consider the up tier to Jefferson if I was rostered appropriately. It needs to be the big asterisk. If you're rostered appropriately. Because if you're not, I want a down tier more often than not. Mike, when I go to lineup, though, the way Jefferson's valued, I'm doing this. I'm doing this in lineup because here's the thing. 105, there's going to be value accrual. But the reality of what this pick is going to be is this. You're going to be faced with the decision of, and this is if all 4 of the quarterbacks end up getting top 15 capital, right? Top half of the first round capital. You're going to be faced with the last quarterback on the board, the first wide receiver off the board. Mike, if this says Quentin Johnson and Jalen Waddle, I want Jefferson by a mile, right? Because I don't know if people are going to have the conviction, let's say it's your boy Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, and they're more in the teens, to actually even take that person here. Lineup, I want Jefferson easily. Best ball, if I'm really rostered appropriately, I might do it for this because it's only consolidating one extra piece. I don't really view that 403 all that highly. But if it's best ball, deep best ball, like we play in our shit leagues, Mike, people are going to say it's light, but I'm probably going to do this even still with Jefferson in those type of leagues. We're starting 12, 15 types, and we got 40-man rosters. Depth. I want depth. And Waddle is a spike guy. It's not like I'm getting outside of the elite tier of receiver, right? This is a top 12 guy that's valued that way. I could still trade away. So that's the big difference here. I think in lineup start 11, though, Mike, I really like what Shane Joe did.
Oh, man, look at the growth from us. If only Rojo Fish could see us now.
Rojo. Well, this is still lineup. Like if Rojo, throw that trade back in here, and we'll see what we graded at. We might even still take the other side. I'm just playing. All right, so our boy Blitzing Buzzard, Mike, is getting this is down tiering. This was spicy for me, Mike, but this is down tiering to the point where you got to believe a little bit in Daniel Jones. You got to at least have the stones for the value, even if you don't believe that you can trade away Daniel Jones, because you're coming off of Fields, who is a top 8 quarterback. I know people are very indifferent on Fields and what he is long-term as a passer, but this guy's rushing upside in his youth, ridiculous. In the 212, Mike, which we value, but you're getting back Daniel Jones in a big down tier, but you're getting Smitty, who has been, an absolute rocket ship these last 8 weeks or so. And also the 110, Mike, which is a very nice pick in this class. So curious your thoughts to start this one off, man, because this one's spicy.
Man, this one is so tough too, man. This is ridiculously tough for me. Justin Fields, I love him, man. I want him everywhere. Everywhere. He's a top 8 quarterback. I don't think that's a hot take to say. Maybe it is to some, but no question about it. Top 8 dynasty quarterback for me. Daniel Jones is a riser, big riser. Some people might have him at 13. Some people might have him at 14. I don't think anybody's going to have him in the top 12. I don't see a lot of case to move Daniel Jones in the top 12.
Top 15-ish, not top 12.
Top 15 is fair. Devontae Smith, you and I both absolutely love him, and we're all about first-round picks. That 212 in there, this is what hurts it for me. If this was just Fields and then you got Daniel Jones,
they're 3 for
Smith,
1.
I feel really good about it. That 212 is still going to be something pretty reasonable, Adam. And you you cut yourself with the leverage, right? You cut it in half a little bit here with the 212, because what if he hits on a running back like a Dameon Pierce level? Like, it doesn't even have to be a superstar, but a guy who has a role, who does something.
Sure.
Finishes as an RB2. This is so damn tough. Would
Let me just give you the settings too. 12-team Superflex best ball start 10. So shallow best ball roster starting, but
even
best ball
man,
still.
that makes it even harder because Justin Fields is so damn good. All right, let me say this: if I'm on the best ball thing, the best ball thing does it. If this is a lineup league, I think I want the field side. As shitty as that is to say, in a best ball league, I'll take the Daniel Jones down tier. It is gross. It's gross to say you're going from Fields to Daniel Jones, even though Jones is ascending or has risen up so much from where he was about this time last year. But Smitty's phenomenal. The 110 can still be a really good player. 212, yes. Could you hit a Dameon Pierce? Yes. But could you also just strike out completely and have a 0?
Isaiah
100%.
Spiller?
Yes.
So
I'll take blitzing buzzer side in a best ball. I don't want to do this down tier, but this is one of those, Adam, where I would do it and then I'd post it on Twitter and get absolutely hated on, and I would bookmark all the responses and then laugh at people if I was right and then slowly delete it if I was wrong.
Well, what's interesting about this one, at least to me, Mike, is so let's just say before I get into best ball and lineup, right? Some of the things on the surface here. Daniel Jones right now, part of my problem with him now, I mean, I wrote shout out to the newsletter, Destination Devy newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go do that. It's free. Every single Friday, Mike or myself or one of us will be writing in there, as well as all the other content creators at DD. Go do that. I wrote glowingly about Daniel Jones and that you need to start respecting him. Problem with that, Mike, is he is at, honestly for me, and what I've seen, the peak of his value in Dynasty right now. He's a top 15 Dynasty quarterback. I don't even think coming out of Duke when he got, what was it, 6th pick overall to the Giants, he was top 15. So we're talking about, here's one of my issues as a philosophy thing. I don't really like buying guys at their peak at all, especially guys that I don't think have I'll buy Patrick Mahomes at his peak because he's just that good. I'll buy Josh Allen at his peak because he's that good. Even when we talk like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, they're that good. Buy them at their peak, okay. Daniel Jones, I'm buying at his peak here. This is part of where my issue is. For a lot of people, though, the converse will be you're selling Justin Fields at his peak. Can Justin Fields rise higher than quarterback 8? Yeah, but you're going to need to see some serious upgrades in the weaponry. You're going to need to see some upgrades in the passing game. Devontae Smith is someone I want a lot. And we've been on him all offseason. Feels like forever ago. He didn't have a single catch in week 1. People were ready to write off the Slim Reaper.
Guilty.
Top 15, top 20 dynasty wide receiver, however you slice it. 110 over 212, Mike, is a big difference for me. Here's the thing. 212, if you kept the pick, you're going to shoot your shot on a running back that has very big, outcome differences. Could be Isaiah Spiller. Yeah. It could be, Tyler Algier. It could be Dameon Pierce. But 110, Mike, is a pick that's going to be coveted as somebody that could have extreme long-term value. You could trade that away, and it also is a player that, a wide receiver, running back that could be very, very highly touted. Yeah. I'll say this. In lineup, I would need to know what Blitzing Buzzer's team looks like. If he has, let's say, one of the top 8 quarterbacks already, and he has a decent third, I'm good. I'm good in lineup even doing this. Best ball I'm definitely in as long as you have still a top 12 quarterback. I don't want to go from Justin Fields and no other decent top 12 option to Daniel Jones and Geno Smith and Jimmy G. I don't want to have that quarterback crew. I don't want to do that. But as long as you have another legitimate quarterback option, I'll take the blitzing buzzard side in both here. I'll say this. If you are desperate for a quarterback and this is a lineup start 10, it's a hefty price for Fields, but I would consider doing it.
Let me say this, and let me be consistent with the advice I give to Adam. If I put this in startup terms, and we just think about it, how much in the startup I want to get 2 elite quarterbacks, right? So say I'm picking at the 103 or whatever. I take Burrow, for example. I take Joe Burrow.
Yep.
The guy is going to pick at the 108 or the 109.
Okay.
Be blitzing buzzard in this case. Where do you think Daniel Jones goes in the startup? Like, even if you put it at 4th round.
Yeah, fourth or fifth.
If I had, what do you think Devontae Smith goes? 3rd round?
Third or fourth?
And then the 110, we're probably talking the 7th round.
7th, 8th?
Right? I'm looking at it and going, like, I could trade back up into the 1st round and nail 2 elite starting quarterbacks. Best ball lineup, doesn't matter, lineup size. That's something that I want to do all the time. And it cost me my 3rd, my 4th, and my 7th.
But and also, Mike, especially in lineup, this is where if you want to go do this, the 212 is probably going to be a 14th round type pick, 15th round type pick.
Right.
Which is a nice little fluff add-on.
Right. And it's even more valuable in best ball.
And that's where I'm saying, I think in lineup, I'm willing to take the top side if I need that extra quarterback. I'll say in lineup, though, if I have the appropriate quarterbacks rostered and you believe in Daniel Jones, I would be willing to do it. But here in this format, especially Mike in best ball, I'm good. I'll take Danny Dimes.
I think even in best ball, man, for me, if I look at it in startup terms, I still want the Justin Fields in the 212 side.
Really? You'll take that in best ball?
Oof. I think I'll take it in best ball. Having those 2 elite
but let me say this.
Such
Daniel Jones is – okay, well, here's the difference, though, and this is where you believe long-term versus right now. Justin Fields was elite last year in production, but I'm telling you who was quietly really fucking good, Mike.
Daniel Jones.
He rushed for 700 – he had 700 rushing yards.
100%.
He had some spike weeks. But and Devontae Smith in 110 could be very big difference makers in best ball. So I think honestly, I'm very comfortable with blitzing Buzzard's side if I have the appropriate quarterbacks. But what I will say is this. If you're making this bet and it's not a super active league and you don't think you can trade Daniel Jones, this is a big bet on what you think of his future.
I get you. I think this is going to be one of the few trades now that I think about it. I'll take an actual hard stance, man. I want the Justin Fields side. Doesn't matter the league type.
Interesting.
I see the other point. And this is something I would do and probably regret. But the way I'm at right now with the quarterback landscape, the way I'm at with Justin Fields, I want Fields in the 212. And if it costs me my Daniel Jones, a guy I love in Devontae Smith, and this 110, I'm okay. I'll take Fields.
I think, too, last point is that I know we're both bullish on Fields. It seems like you've honestly just been a hair ahead of me on Fields. I still love Fields, but I think this is one where you're saying you believe Fields firmly is a top 6-8 quarterback and entrenched for the long haul. So I get it. All right. Savage, I-24-17. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike, in the 206 for Jalen Waddle and the 505. Mike, I wanted to put this one in here because here's the thing. We had Jalen Waddle on earlier. I felt like this one needed to come on because, like, before I even say settings, like, it doesn't matter to me.
No.
It does not matter to me because here's the thing. I think let me just say what I think we both believe, but I'll let you say your piece. I think Jalen Waddle is overvalued in Dynasty currently. And I think somehow, some way, as crazy as it is because of the day 3 draft capital and whatever that does to people's view of Dynasty assets, Amon-Ra St. Brown, as great as he's been, is kind of undervalued. I think they're very close in Dynasty value. I would understand if you want to lean Waddle. I really would. Personally, I think it's close. I'm almost comfortable taking Amon-Ra ahead of Jalen Waddle. The only reason I would maybe lean Waddle is because I think there's more name cash to trade away. But, Mike, 206 versus 505, monumentally different here. I'll take the added second-round pick for Amon-Ra St. Brown because especially, Mike, this is – we talked about all the concerns with Tua. We've talked about, Tyreek Hill's over there. So Jalen Waddle's not viewed as the current alpha, and this is a quarterback situation, which is dicey based on your first trade, right? So give me Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 206 easily here. Don't care about the format. Although, Mike, I will say it's lineup start 9.
So, you hit on a lot of the stuff I was going to talk about. I think it's very interesting that we were just talking about Jalen Waddle and how, kind of a sell candidate. One guy that we think is a little bit overvalued. And boom, prime example here, Adam. I'm fully with you. If you remember way back upon a time, man, the first time I ever did a trade show, it wasn't with you. It was with the GOAT, Ray G. Went on, did a trade show with him.
Absolutely.
I took some heat, but I made a proclamation at the time of T. Higgins is my dynasty wide receiver 6. A little spicy at the time. Adam, I'm here to tell you Amon-Ra St. Brown is my dynasty wide receiver 6. And I don't care who knows it.
Ooh,
I don't care.
That is spicy.
I will take – I'm with you. You hinted to it. Amon-Ra or Jalen Waddle straight up, I'm taking Amon-Ra. And forget the name cachet. Amon-Ra just flat out produces. We need to put respect on this guy's name. You're giving me a free 206. I could give a fuck less about that 505. Thank you for the free 206, and I will take the receiver that I value higher than Jalen Waddle.
Well, here's the thing. When I say the name cachet, like I do believe that everything I said earlier makes Waddle an asset that people value higher, typically, than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Right or wrong, doesn't matter. That's where, like, if it's 1-for-1, I think I can flip Waddle a lot of places. Like, this should show you right here that if I get Waddle for Amon-Ra straight up, I can net Amon-Ra in a 206, right? Like, that's why I would take Waddle 1-for-1. If you told me I have to keep the player, Ray GQ style, I can't trade him, you got to keep him for life, I want Amon-Ra St. Brown ahead of Jalen Waddle.
It's surprising, too, man. I had to punch it in. Our favorite website we love to hate, Keep Trade Cut, but
wide receiver data, 5 and 7, man.
5 and 7, man, and the difference between them, they do favor Jalen Waddle, but the difference between them is a Josh Oliver or a Rashard Higgins. I didn't know Rashard Higgins was still in the league, to be honest.
Well, what's crazy, though, Mike, is we talk about this all the time. Trading within tiers. When Mike and I believe that somebody is in the same tier as someone, we're not going to make a 1-for-1. Now, everyone that is watching this, when you see us grading trades, these are trades that are submitted through our Patreon, patreon.com/South Harmon. When we grade a 1-for-1, it's because we're going to grade the trade because that was given to us. 1-for-1 in the same tier, Mike and I aren't going to make those trades. We're not going to make a 1-for-1 player in the same position group that we believe is in the same tier. Mike, Keep Trade Cut, as much as I told you that Jalen Waddle probably has name cachet ahead of Amon-Ra, you can see on the right, they do values and they do tiers. Jalen Waddle and Amon-Ra St. Brown are in the same tier, even on Keep Trade Cut, which means when are we going to trade within the same tier, Mike? When you give me the 206 for the 505.
When you give me the plus.
So guess what? That was savage. That was Savage.
Savage.
Give me Amon-Ra St. Brown at 206 because here's the thing, too. Jalen Waddle, I think, is at the point where there's just no way in dynasty value he goes up. He's wide receiver 5. Who's he passing? Like, give me that. Who is he passing? Because I'll tell you who he's not passing. Any one of the 4 ahead of him. He's not passing A.J. Brown. He's not passing CeeDee Lamb. He's definitely not passing Chase or Jefferson. He's not the alpha in his offense. Tyreek Hill's there.
Right.
So, like the 505, we talk about the depth of 23. The 505 is outside of the depth of 2023. The 206 is well within, like, great chance of a running back or receiver you want.
It's kind of wild, too. Like, he's ranked in people's minds as the wide receiver 1 on his team, and that's not even close to the case, right? Tyreek Hill smashed the piss out of him. If you look at any metric, I mean, you might find one of those deep dive analytical, like route win rate or something like that, where like Jalen Waddle was actually better at this. But the things that matter, fantasy points per game, when we look at our spike weeks, consistency weeks, it's not even close. I mean, Jalen Waddle was good, but Tyreek Hill was on another level. The difference is people look at Tyreek Hill's age and look at Jalen Waddle's age, and for some reason value him as the number 1 dynasty asset on that team, which is strange to me. Like, there's a realistic scenario where Tyreek Hill's still producing like this for the next 2-3 years.
Oh, so, for sure. And then the last part is you go back to the beginning where we talked about Mike's trade. All the scaredness of Tua. People are acting like this guy may not play football again. And listen, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a neurologist. I don't know any of that. I believe in the talent. I believe that he's convicted enough and cares enough about football that he'll be back. But here's the thing, Mike. If you're scared about Tua, right, think about the 4 ahead of him. Okay,
yeah.
The one that's being, most clowned right now is Dak because of what took place in the playoffs. But Dak Prescott is still very much going to be the quarterback for Dallas. Dak Prescott's still a top 12. He's had some injuries, but it's not concussion retire type injuries. That's the worst quarterback there, right? Mike, the other ones are Joe Burrow throwing to Jamar Chase, right? I mean, as much as you hate Kirk Cousins, he's not the best, but he's been awesome for Justin Jefferson. And Justin Jefferson, regardless of who his quarterback is that dude. And then you got A.J. Brown, who's got Jalen Hurts throwing the football, Mike. So the point I think I'm making here is that none of that even bakes in what's going to happen with Tua. And you saw, Mike, everybody watching, when Skylar Thompson or whoever the hell they throw in there is at quarterback, how much different Jalen Waddle is going to be scoring for you. This feels like we're stomping on the kid. Like, I have no problem with Jalen Waddle. I actually like him, but he's just way overvalued for me in Dynasty. And I think Amon-Ra is undervalued, and this is showing you why that's the case.
Yeah, it isn't like I'm ranking Jalen Waddle as like wide receiver 20 or something, right? He's still in the top 12. He's still good at football. I just think there's a massive gap between perception of where he should actually be. He's a lot closer to that tier, with Amon-Ra, with T. Higgins, with DK, with some of the older guys like Adams and Diggs and those kind of guys. He's a lot closer to those guys than he's ever going to be to Chase or Jefferson. Yeah. And just because the age kind of lines up and is similar, people seem to value him that highly, which is strange to me. It's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, once again, if this is not Amon-Ra St. Brown and we're talking about, let's get deeper down, Mike, George Pickens or something. Okay, yeah. We're having a totally different conversation, right? With Drake London even, I think we're having a different conversation.
Right.
This is Amon-Ra St. Brown that I personally think is undervalued and in the same type of tier. And I think the biggest thing, whether you believe we're right or wrong about Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jalen Waddle in particular, like if you don't agree with that, that's fine. I think the biggest takeaway from that last trade is that you should be thinking about this in your own process with tiers. And if you have somebody that wants to come get one of your players and you can trade back for a guy that's in your same tier that they value lower and get a plus, that's a craftful way that you can play 4D chess and net value for your team. Trade within tiers, don't do it 1-for-1. But if they'll give you a plus, that's the type of thing you can do in Dynasty to constantly net value for your team.
Man, so well said, buddy. Last thing I got before we get out of here, this is coming on Saturday. So if you haven't seen, there should already be an announcement video of our giveaway. So make sure you go check that out. Get your entries in, and hopefully you can win some dope prizes. So not only can you get your trade featured on here, but hell, you might get your trade featured on here, and then we're doing another video just for you announcing that you won a Jackson Smith and Jigba signed jerseys. That'd be pretty dope.
Absolutely. So yeah, make sure if you're sub to the channel, you're watching this, that you enter into the giveaway that we're doing. We got 8 different items coming, really dope items. So make sure you go check that out. Also, if you are tuned into this, you're a first-time listener, please go down, hit that subscribe button. We do this Dynasty Trade Show every single Saturday. We bring all the Dynasty trades that are happening, real money Dynasty trades that are featured by people like you that play in leagues. So go hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, please make sure you give us a comment. What do you think about Amon-Ra St. Brown? What do you think about Tua? What do you think about Jalen Waddle? Anything you want to, comment for us. And if you are seeing this and want your trades featured on this show, for $1 a month, patreon.com/South Harmon. Come be a shithead. Join everyone else here. Over 100 patron members who are in there daily talking Dynasty trades, talking values, and ultimately putting all their trades in the Shithead Trades channel. You can come be a part of this show. We'll grade your trade, right or wrong. You want to be 7 goat rings and come flex about how you win every league, every single one of your trades, but then here's the one I lose so that I can keep making winning trades. That's fine. Mr. Wonderful, you want to craftily get all the first in 24 and hoard them. Whatever you want to do, we'll grade them for you. So make sure you're doing all those things. We really appreciate everyone tapping in. Mike, any final thoughts?
That's all I got, man. You guys are incredible. You've got us to this point, and your continued support is very much appreciated. And we'll see where this thing goes, man. Sky's the limit at this point with the incredible community that we have behind you. And that means you, talking to you. So thank you again. That's all I got, man.
Appreciate all the love and support. We will be back here, same time, same place next week for the Dynasty Trade Show. And I hope that you have a great weekend. We're out of this thing. Peace.
Peace.